Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. With the NFL playoffs back on, I thought you all might enjoy this football-related revenge story. I'm a huge 49 years fan, the rabbit all-day tailgate in the parking lot type. A few years ago, we made it back to the Super Bowl. I was working at a consulting firm with a handful of accounts I would interact with directly. One client in particular knew how big of a Niners fan I was. I was the day-to-day lead on his account. He really liked working with me and we became friends, often grabbing drinks or dinner after our meetings. He had access to a pair of extra company seats to the game, and as a thank you, wanted to give them to me as a gift. He passed the tickets over to the partner on that account, who I will refer to as Jerk Partner, to be given to me as a surprise. The game came and went. We lost. It sucked. The next time we met, we went to drink afterward, and he mentioned, "Hey, by the way, why didn't you go to the game? I heard someone else was in your seats." I asked what game. He said the Super Bowl. Confused, I answered I didn't have seats to the Super Bowl. He told me that he gave Jerk Partner a pair of his company tickets for me as a gift so I could attend. I had zero idea what he was talking about. He looked shocked, told me to quietly ask around about it, and get back to him. When I was back in the office the next week, I found out through one of the secretaries that Jerk Partner had given a pair of Super Bowl tickets to another one of his clients as a gift from our company. I might have let this sort of thing go to keep the peace under different circumstances, but these were seats on the 30-yard line to see the effing 49ers play in the Super Bowl. I was pissed. I considered confronting Jerk Partner myself, but realized it was the client who had noticed I wasn't there in the first place. So if I let him handle it, there would be no blowback on me. So I texted him, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you so much for thinking of me with those seats. It appears that they were given to another one of our firm's clients." He texted back right away, in all caps, "Are you crapping me?" And then pretend I never told you. Let me handle. He followed up with me about formulating a plan. A few days later, we were asked to come down for a meeting in their office. The client requested the partner be present, not entirely unusual, so Jerk Partner and I hopped a flight the next week and headed over to their office. Little did Jerk Partner know my client had orchestrated a wonderfully awkward little show to catch him red-handed. When we entered the conference room, it was all the usual suspects, along with a woman in her 30s we didn't recognize. My client immediately introduces Jerk Partner. This is Stephanie such VP from other department. She wanted to sit in on this meeting. "Hey, OP, you guys must already know her from the Super Bowl." She then responds as she goes to shake my hand, "Oh, I don't think so. Did we meet there? I'm sorry if I forgot." Client responds, "Gee, Steve, how much did you have to drink? They were sitting right next to you?" Client looks at me, and I say, "Sorry, clienty, I wasn't there. Are you thinking of someone else?" At this point, Jerk Partner is looking visibly uncomfortable, probably trying to come up with an excuse. He starts in with an when Stephanie says over him, "No, so-and-so from other company, we're in the other seats." By the way, I was wondering why we gave company seats to those guys. Is there a project we're working with them on that I don't know about? Obviously not. They were in completely different industries. It would be like Coca-Cola partnering with John Deere. Jerk Partner lets out an again, and the client immediately speaks over him, asking Jerk Partner, "I gave you those tickets for OP?" At this point, Jerk Partner is turning bright red. He responds, "Oh, well, he wasn't able to make it, so he must have given the seats away to someone else," and turns to me looking for me to cover for him. Client smirks at me. I respond, what are you talking about? Client, you gave me tickets to the Super Bowl?" Client suddenly raises his voice, Jerk Partner. "Those tickets were a personal thank you gift from me to OP. Did you give them away to someone else?" Pause. "Was it another client?" Jerk Partner butts in with, maybe something got mixed up in the office." Client went quiet for what probably seemed like an eternity to Jerk Partner. He then looked down, grabbed his portfolio and iPad, put them into his briefcase, and said, "I think this meeting is over. OP, it seems as if I owe you a thank you gift. Let's go to lunch." "Stephanie, you're welcome to join. Jerk Partner, I need to evaluate our relationship. Please go back home and expect to hear from us next week." Jerk Partner suggests he would like to join, presumably to do damage control, and Stephanie sternly tells him I don't think that's a good idea, and asks the front desk to see Jerk Partner out. As soon as he is in the elevator, we all break out laughing hysterically. Stephanie wasn't really a VP, just an employee at the company who client had drafted into helping with his pre-planned meeting skit, But she did end up coming to lunch with us and was a fellow Niners fan and total blast to hang out with. On our way to the restaurant, I got a desperate text from Jerk Partner saying I needed to cover for the firm and that we could discuss things when I got back. I replied, yes, we need to talk, but I'll see what I can do. Client told me to wait a couple hours and then respond to him. 1. To expect invoices for the resale value of the Super Bowl tickets. Resale is way above face value. It was over $10K. As well as our lunch, he picked a pricey spot and made a big show of overspending, and that he expected them to be paid immediately. 2. Expected I be given a direct apology. 3. Expected a written apology to a company for what he considered theft. And 4. He will only interact with me or another one of our firm's partners. Never Jerk Partner. This whole thing caused a stir with the other partners, and I actually came off looking great because it appeared that I had made a good faith effort to save the client for the firm, despite being the victim in this situation. The client would transfer to another partner, which meant Jerk Partner lost his profit share on any work with them. Oh, and the other partners in the firm made Jerk Partner pay the invoices back out of his salary. In retrospect, I really have no idea what the hell the guy was thinking. Did he seriously believe the client would just not notice me not thanking him for Super Bowl tickets? Anyway, the well was kind of poisoned for me there long term because Jerk Partner wasn't going anywhere. I left the firm a few months later for a much better position. Client ultimately terminated their relationship with that firm a year later. He actually now works with a good friend of mine at a competing firm. I'm still pissed I missed out on the Super Bowl even though we lost, hoping we make it back this year so I can finally go to one in person. Go Niners! Context. I'm a wine steward historian by trade and I run an international bottle shop tasting room. I'm also hard of hearing and I wear an over-the-ear hearing aid in my right ear that looks similar to sport Bluetooth earbuds. We recently made a commercial for the shop, which I am in. It's a pretty good commercial which plays on 8 cable channels in my area, and I occasionally get recognized by random people as a result. This will be important. About a month ago, I was in Albertsons. It's a chain grocery store pharmacy, getting cat food and ingredients for dinner. As a general rule, I like to check their wine section out to make sure I don't carry anything that they do. As I was bent down looking at the lower shelves, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I assumed that this was someone alerting me to their presence and their intent to move in close. Personally, I have no problem with that. Parts of my shop are fairly close quarters, so it happens at work all the time. No big deal. Then I felt the hand again, but this time it was more deliberate. I took this as a sign that this person is just tactless, and I shuffled left a bit. Then I felt a rather aggressive tap on my hearing aid, which popped a bit and scared the crap out of me, so I jumped up and turned to face my antagonist. Who was this rude and annoying person? A short, bleach, blonde, 30-something woman wearing an outfit that definitely costs more than I pay in rent. If her name isn't Tiffany, then it absolutely should be, and that is how I will refer to her going forward. And her effing voice. You know that SNL sketch where Pedro Pascal comes out of a coma and speaks like a valley girl on muscle relaxers? Imagine that, but without the eloquence and sophistication. Tiffany. Excuse me. Me. Yes. Tiffany. Where can I find Josh Rose? It's $10 a bottle of absolute crap. Me. I'm not sure. I don't work here. Tiffany. But I saw you on TV. You're the wine guy. Me. Yeah, that's me, but I actually don't know much about the layout of this store. It's a lot different than mine. Sorry. Tiffany. You should at least know where the Rose is. We were standing about 15 feet from the Rose section, so I pointed to it. Given our height difference, I'm guessing that she just couldn't see it over the rack we were facing. She sneered at me. Tiffany? Was that so hard? If eye rolls were audible, mine could have been heard in Australia. I shrugged. Tiffany. They better have Josh Rose. And she was off. I decided to get while the getting was good, as we say around here, so I continued my shopping. I gathered what I needed for spaghetti, which took about 15 minutes. As I walked towards the front of the store to check out, I heard a familiar voice. Tiffany, they don't have Josh Rose. You said they'd have Josh Rose? Me. I pointed you towards the Rose section. I never said they have anything. Perhaps you might find my friend Ray, the wine steward here, and make arrangements for him to bring it in. This is totally a thing that he can do. Tiffany, I'll do that? Where is he? Me. I have no idea. Again, I don't work here. Tiffany, Wow, you're useless. Some wine steward you are. Me. I don't actually sell any of this, so I can't tell you much beyond the label and a general description of the geography and climate of the area it's produced in. Tiffany. Who actually cares about that crap? Me. You'd be surprised. You should come in and check out the shop sometime. I'll show and tell you anything you want. Tiffany. Oh, like I'm ever going to your shop. I'll go to wine shop 40 minutes away and get it there. Now, I could have done a lot in this situation. I could have told her that they don't carry it either. I also could have told her that they carry it at Safeway about half a mile up the road. I didn't do either of those things. I wished her happy holidays and walked to the register, and that was that. Until the next morning. Apparently Tiffany had called the shop and left a voicemail describing my terrible service and poor attitude. Naturally, my boss asked me about it, so I regaled her with the story. We had a good laugh about it, and once again that was that. Until 2 days later, I got a text from Ray asking why a crazy lady said the wine guy told me to find you. Apparently Tiffany had come back in and accosted him, claiming that I told her to. I once again recounted the tale, and we also had a good laugh about it, then moved on. Once again, that was that. Until the very next day, my boss came to my desk and said I think that crazy lady gave us a bad Yelp review. Cue another audible eye roll. The review was scathing and entirely about my conduct at Albertsons. That would have been a good laugh, except that even as unhinged as it was, it still hurt our overall rating. Our office manager was able to contact Yelp and explain the situation, and the review was removed. Tiffany stayed true to her word, though. I've never seen her again, although her name has turned into a running joke whenever we have a customer with her disposition. Hey gang! Happy New Year! I hope you all had a great holiday season. We're actually extending said season by one more week, and then it's back to normal. Anyway, we had some really good chicken drumsticks this season. Excuse me, but there's a story behind a normal little shopping session. The week before Christmas, my GF and me hopped into the Lidl to get some last-minute stuff for the week after. Your usual stuff like soup, bread, milk, and when we got to the meat section, my GF's eyes lit up when she saw a huge box of chicken drumsticks. 1 kg of them. My GF loves chicken, but is always unsure about the cooking time. However, it's not much of an issue for me because if you put them in the air fryer, you always get good, hot, and crispy drumsticks. So when she's over, we more than often eat chicken together. Well, this time I wasn't really planning on it, but saying no to her also wasn't going to happen. We grabbed the rest of the stuff we wanted and are needed, and then on to the tills. We were really in a holiday mood, so nothing was going to ruin our fun. It was a bit busy, but yeah, who cares? I was about to get in line when my GF pulled my arm and pointed my attention to a woman in a wheelchair who was also pulling in. I completely overlooked her, but not my GF. She beaconed the woman to go right ahead before us, and we moved to the next line where there was only one older couple before us. The woman used a stroller rollator, but who cares? This shouldn't take that long, right? Well, but I can't walk well. It took a moment, but as said before, we didn't care, and eventually there was enough space for us to put our shopping on the belt. I noticed the couple didn't place a divider behind their stuff, and normally I'd get a little petty about that, but not this time. Divider, groceries, more groceries, and yet another divider. Done? Next stop. Sorting the beer, because we had quite a few cans of beer, approx. 16 cans. I always hand 1 can to the cashier and tell them how much we got in total, while also making sure that the cans in the cart are easy to see. I also always stack them to make counting easier. So in this case, I planned for 3 rows of 4 cans and 1 row of 3 cans, while the last can went onto the counter. While I'm doing this, I suddenly hear the woman before me ask me this, "Say, you guys can get a new box of chicken, right?" And in hindsight, I did see her look somewhat weird at our groceries while we were placing our stuff. Me, still being busy with sorting, only picked up half of that, and I'm like, huh. And the next moment, my GF storms past me, also softly pushing me aside, not a problem. "What do you think you're doing?" And for a brief moment, I thought she was talking to me, but no. As I look up, I see my GF grab the box of chicken while the woman was also reaching over for them. The heck? Convos are translated from Dutch. "I'll take those. Thank you," my GF sneers, and after grabbing the box, moves back past me and puts the box back in the cart next to the beer cans. The woman looks at us, visibly irritated. "We need that chicken? You can get a new box, so just give it to me," my Jeff retorts. "This is our box. If you need chicken, go get it yourself." "But I can't walk so well," the woman shouts. You can just run over and get a new one, right? So don't be like that. My GF doesn't respond, but sure enough, the woman now tries to reach into our cart. Before I can say or do anything, my GF pushes past me a bit and slaps her hand away. I said, "Get your own chicken. Stop trying to steal our stuff." The woman is visibly shocked. "You have no manners," she shouts. My GF laughs at this point. "Look who's talking! I'm not the one just grabbing stuff from other people's carts. Whore white zit." During all this nonsense, the cashier had scanned most of their groceries, and her husband, so I assume, now tries to get her attention by telling that she needs to pay. However, the woman gives it one more try. "Why won't you help us out? It's nearly Christmas," she sneers at my GF. "Had you asked like a normal person, would I probably let you have it?" she answers. "But I'm not giving up my chicken for some random entitled witch like you. Now sod off, zootin' no." "No, that's not for you." After a hump, the woman goes over to the register, pays, and moves towards the end of the belt behind the register. I put the box back on the belt, greet the cashier, and tell her how much beer cans we have in total. The most funniest thing happened next. The cashier scans the box of chicken, but instead of passing it onto the belt, I was prepared to grab it ASAP. She takes it back, looks at the older couple who for some reason are still standing near the end of the belt, and tells them this is their box. Got it? After handing the box over to my GF. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. With another loud hump, the couple took off, and I parked the cart where they were standing to load up the rest of our groceries. Some people... Morale of the story: don't try to get between my GF and her chicken drumsticks. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. Once upon a time, in the fabled land of New York City, when I was 10 or so years of age, my father and I stood at the counter of a small cafe nestled within the bustling aisles of Macy's. My father, a tall and sturdy figure with graying hair at the temples, was in the process of placing our order, a black coffee for him and a sweetened one for my mother. I, on the other hand, found myself leaning against the counter with folded arms, one foot rhythmically bouncing by the toe on the floor behind me. The subtle dance was a manifestation of my Tourette syndrome, a condition that added a unique rhythm to my everyday life. The store around us was eerily empty, devoid of any other patrons within a stone's throw of the cafe. As I stood in calm idleness, surrounded by the bright glow of skylights and lightly colored merchandise displays, a series of unexpected events unfolded. First, there was the sensation of someone stumbling over my bouncing foot, accompanied by a surprised and angered exclamation of, "Hey!" Shortly afterward, I felt a weak impact of clenched knuckles between my shoulder blades. Unhurt but startled, I turned to find a woman, perhaps in her late 50s, thin to the point of frailty, glaring at me with an anger that momentarily quelled my goody two-shoes heart. As a peculiarly well-behaved child, I was beloved by my teachers prone to self-imposed timeouts for crimes unwitnessed and unaccustomed to the darker aspects of life. Despite the limp potency of the woman's anger, akin to an overcooked stalk of asparagus, at that moment I was still and afraid. The woman spoke, her voice frantic and shrill. "You can't just do that. You can't just stick your leg out like..." In a flash, my father's arm extended, catching her by the upper arm. The transformation in her demeanor was immediate. Her face lost all anger and color, bequeathed to her by the last vestiges of middle age. Then, with the authority only a father can muster, he spoke. His voice, slow and stern, echoed with distant tones reminiscent of a commander rallying his troops. "My son," he began, "has Tourette's." I remember nothing more of what he said, but even now I can hear the terrible, nearly song-like cadence of those first 4 words, resonating like the opening notes of a funeral dirge. He spoke for but a moment, and when he released the woman, she fled silently and swiftly away. In the aftermath of the encounter, we continued with our day, the incident fading into a memory that held both the sting of injustice and the warmth of a father's protective embrace. However, fate had more in store for us that day. As we strolled through the labyrinthine halls of Macy's, the tranquil ambience was shattered by a commotion echoing from the direction of the cafe. Turning the corner, we were met with a surprising sight. The same woman, now red-faced and incensed, surrounded by store security. Enraged by her encounter with us, she had taken it upon herself to cause a scene. As her tirade continued, fueled by a mixture of indignation and embarrassment, my father calmly approached the situation. Instead of responding in kind, he tried to defuse the tension, urging the security personnel to handle the matter without resorting to unnecessary measures. However, the woman's fury was relentless. In a sudden twist of events, she lashed out physically, her hand connecting with my father's face. Shocked by the unprovoked attack, he stepped back, momentarily stunned. But my father was a man of principles and patience. Instead of retaliating, he calmly took out his phone and dialed the number for the local police. As the situation escalated, he narrated the incident, emphasizing the unprovoked assault and the need for intervention. Within moments, uniformed officers arrived at the scene, assessing the situation with a practiced eye. Witnesses were questioned, and the security footage from the store was reviewed. The woman, realizing the gravity of her actions, shifted from belligerence to a fearful demeanor. The police, in a display of professionalism, handled the situation judiciously. After hearing both sides and examining the evidence, they decided to take the woman into custody for assault and disorderly conduct. In the end, justice prevailed not through an act of retaliation, but through the measured response of law enforcement. My father's commitment to resolving the situation without resorting to violence had not only preserved our dignity, but had also ensured that the woman faced the consequences of her actions. This is a weird story that just happened over the weekend, though you all might enjoy it. So Saturday night, the missus and I are lying in bed trying to go to sleep when I hear some noise from the back door. The storm door opens and slams shut. I'm not fully asleep yet, so I put on pants and a shirt I can find, grab my trusty shotgun. We move to the mountainside, and most of the area is still wooded, and living in such conditions, wild animals are an issue. We have bears, coyotes, raccoon, and bobcat, to name a few. So, as I'm moving to the back door, I hear a window break in the back garage. I look out and see someone breaking into my garage. I scream for the wife to call the sheriff office. Around here, 911 doesn't work well for breaking in. We are connected with a couple of counties, and it gets confusing for them. We get quicker response by calling them directly. I'm now in go mode, thinking some meth head is trying to score some tools for some quick cash. Got out of the house and noticed this person's truck still running. I did the only thing I could think of and took the key out of the truck and put it in my pocket and waited for the deputies to show up. It took them 20 minutes to show up. One was state police, the other was a local sheriff deputy who were doing radar 10 miles up the road. Wife and I know them both. With my gun in hand, I told them someone was in the garage, and I haven't approached it yet, but here's the key to the perp truck. They go in gun-dawned out and deal with the situation. The dude was passed out on an old bench seat for an old truck I have by the tool bench. They wake him up and arrest him with little to no issues other than him screaming profanity at them. They told me that I can press charge and to come in on Monday to file the paperwork. He's not getting out anytime soon since, on top of his breaking in, he's being charged with a Dewey. Yesterday I spent the day traveling trying to fix the window this AH broke since no stores that are open Sunday in my local area. While in my travels, I'm fuming at the fact that I'm having to do this repair on a piece of junk door from the 70s. My wife was telling me to maybe let him go with a warning, but I'm having none of it. So, this morning, I went to the sheriff's office. The same deputy was there that arrested the perpetrator, so I asked him how the ride with the dude was. This is the version the officer gave me. Officer, why did you break into the garage? Perp, I was trying to get my stuff back, but someone changed the lock. Officer, you know they purchased that place from Kevin 2 years ago, right? Perp, what? That doesn't give them the right to change the lock without telling me. Officer, oh yeah, they can. You ain't been in that house for like 4 years, and I was the one who got you out of that house because you beat the heck out of your old lady. That's twice I get to arrest you on the same property. Perp, but he shouldn't be entitled to change the locks, though. Where else am I supposed to go? A little backstory on the property. We purchased it from Kevin, who's a school board member, and gave us a decent deal on the property. He had the property as a rental for his nephew for a few years. When his nephew started walking in his dad's footstep by getting drunk and beating his girlfriend at the time, he evicted him from the property 2 years before we purchased it. When he evicted him, he emptied the content of the garage as all scrap metal. He found that out Sunday morning when his uncle paid him a visit in jail. Kevin had other renters on the property after he sold it to us because he didn't want the responsibility of it anymore. He's being charged with trespassing, criminal trespassing, breaking and entering, driving under the influence and property damage of less than $500. Update. So it's been a little while. I didn't have a chance to meet with Kevin last Thursday, since I damn near the day dealing with the police who decided to just bring the attorney who's going to be prosecutor for this case. He was very impressed that I still had all the original receipt for all the tools due to last year's court case. All they would tell me is, because of how much in tools he had access to steal, he would be charged with criminal trespassing, breaking and entering with malicious intent, and attempt of grand larceny, which all makes sense. He would not comment on the possible DUI charge, just asked for the footage of him driving in, and shows me taking the key out backing the story I gave the original officer. They were pretty happy with the evidence and said I should be able to get $500 for the damage done to the door as restitution. As for Kevin, we had coffee yesterday, and he spilled beans on his nephew. I asked him if his nephew was the reason he gave us a good deal on the property, and he said no. He felt most of the property around here is too overpriced and was excited about what my wife was bringing to the school, and he wanted to make sure she wasn't going to struggle while living here. I'm still doing all kinds of work on the house since it's all pretty much 70s, 80s type setup. When the nephew was arrested, he was put into the drunk tank and used his phone call to call his uncle. He was still so drunk that the officer had to get the number for him. He then told Uncle Kevin to get your butt down here and bail me out right now. Kevin responded with, "I'll see you in the morning, son." So Sunday morning he went there to have a little chat. So since he was evicted after his arrest, he skipped town before his court case of assault and battery. His other cousin bailed him out and had skipped out on his bail. Cousin lost $750 on his bail. But it doesn't end there. He asked him what he did to support himself. He wheeled and dealed, as he put it. Worked a few cash construction job and farm job where, get this, he admitted to go back and steal tools, material and parts to sell them in 3 states. He's been to West Virginia, Kentucky, and North Carolina. He ended up getting decent at locating parts and selling them. This is the twist. One person approached him because he was looking for a couple of blocks and transmission. He was offering $5,000 for those parts. Then he remembered that he had those exact parts sitting in his old garage in Virginia, and he was going to get them. He doesn't remember Saturday evening too well. He just remembered trying to use his key and it didn't work on the house, and then noticed the door on the garage and tried to get in there since it never had a lock. But I found one that works. That's when Kevin broke the news that after a month of him skipping town, he cleared everything from the house and garage, brought in a dumpster from a scrap metal, and got $850 for all the metal found in the garage. So he asked him what did he do with the money. He said he approached his other nephew to reimburse him for the bail money, but the nephew declined and offered it to the now ex-girlfriend. This boy lost his crap on his uncle and demanded he put up bail money. Then he asked if his truck was still at my place. He said no state police has it. He turned white as a ghost. The plates he has on the truck are stolen tags from North Carolina. He has no driver's license. He asked him if he was in trouble in any other state. He said he didn't know. After he would score, he'd skip town. Kevin gave all that information to the attorney and for them to possibly check any other of the state and city for open investigation on theft. On Thursday, he demanded for a bail hearing, and it should come to no surprise that the judge denied any bail whatsoever. I asked Kevin what happened to his girlfriend. After the nephew was arrested, he went to visit her and wanted to make sure she was going to press charges so that the nephew might be able to get sober and get his life straight. He told her not to let nephew on the property, and he was going to give her a couple of months rent-free to figure things out. She ended moving to Harrisonburg with her sister. She had a pretty effed up upbringing, and sister was now able to help her as she's NAC from mom and stepdad. They grew up in Elkin WV and both trying to leave nastiness. Sister ended up getting better with education. She just tried to hook up with the first guy that could take her out of town. He hasn't spoken to her in 3 years, so that's pretty much all the info he had on it. So this story happened a week ago. My sister was in town to visit with her husband and 11-year-old son. My BF isn't a huge fan of my sister's husband. My brother-in-law is, as my BF would describe, tactic. Cool, basically, he's really into military stuff even though he never was in the military, while my BF was a U.S. Marine for 5 years. When they met, my brother-in-law tried to act all buddy-buddy and even said these people don't understand warriors like us. My boyfriend finds it annoying both that my brother-in-law is trying to claim warrior status while being a banker and my BF is not fond of the military after all it did to him, so he gets ticked off when people idolize it. But the problem started when they came over. It was a generally nice night other than a passive-aggressive remark by the brother-in-law when he learned I was not cooking. But in fact, my BF is. I'm a terrible cook, and he's amazing at it, so he generally cooks. After dinner, we were all getting caught up in the living room, and their son Jack was getting bored and started walking around. My BF got up after him to watch over him as an excuse to get out of the conversation. This is what my BF said happened. He followed Jack around the house until Jack said he was bored. Trying to be a good uncle, my BF offered to show him his office, and they went inside. My BF is protective of his office, only him and I are allowed inside, so this was a big deal. But my BF wanted to be a good host and uncle. So he showed Jack around the office, showed him his Warhammer armies, the knives he forges, his gaming PC, and everything else. BF has too many hobbies, until they got to a locked cabinet. Jack asked why it was locked. My BF explained his guns were in there, and if his parents allowed it, he would take Jack shooting one day. A little while later, my brother-in-law followed them into the office. My BF was annoyed he was in there, but felt he couldn't kick him out as his son was in there and he had the right to be there. Brother-in-law started talking to him about my BF's guns and wanted to see them. My BF was hesitant, but felt there was no harm because brother-in-law is a grown man. Also, he keeps the ammo in the garage across the house. He opened the cabinet and asked my brother-in-law not to touch them unless he hands them to him. My brother-in-law promptly ignores this, grabs a gun from a rack, does not check if it's clear. My BF emphasizes that it was a huge no-no and starts waving it around. My brother-in-law then thought it would be funny to pretend to shoot his son, so he pointed the gun at Jack. My BF reached for the gun, knocked brother-in-law to the ground, and secured the gun. Then all hell broke loose. Brother-in-law started screaming at my BF, and my sister ran to check what was going on. Then my sister started screaming about how my BF could let her son near a gun. My BF isn't a yeller. He's not afraid of confrontation, but he never yells. He just calmly put his gun away, locked the cabinet, looked at me with a "these people are idiots" look, and waited for a lull in the screaming. He told them, "Get the F out." Brother-in-law got in his face and acted like they were going to fight. My BF just started him down until brother-in-law backed off. BF's 6'3", muscular and carries himself like a former Marine. He basically just stared my sister and brother-in-law out of the house, never raised his voice, never said anything threatening. But after that, the story my family was told is that he's a sociopath with an arsenal, has PTSD, and all of them are blowing up my phone trying to get me to leave him. Apparently, they even called the cops, but we live in his hometown. The local sheriff taught my BF how to hunt as a kid, so the sheriff knew it was a BS report, but still reached out to me to confirm. I assured him and my family countless times that he is not dangerous or hurting me. It's starting to get to me, and I don't know what to do. My BF is concerned for my mental health, but he told me he couldn't care less what they were saying about him. I'm probably going to go low contact until this blows over. I'm just glad we live a couple states away so they can't harass me in person. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.